And there we are. We are live. Hooray. Hi, everybody. This is the Band of Bards Comics Chat. I am Tim, and joined this week by Brent Fisher. Say hello, Brent.
Hello!
Great to have you on. We've been talking and comics friends for quite some time now, and neat to finally have you on the Bardcast.
Oh, it's wonderful to be here. I saw the opportunity to strike, and I did, and especially since I've been wanting to work with the BOBs for quite a while now, and now I'm in it thick.
Yeah.
I'm so deep in the Band of Bards, you have no idea.
Yeah. So if anybody is unaware, Brent is in From the Static, our horror anthology, which is now available for pre-order from Diamond. So if you go to your local comic shop, you can pre-order it with the code SCP for September 221423. I'll probably have to share that later.
Is the Diamond Code really SCP? Does it actually start with SCP?
Yeah, they go by the first three letters of the month, and then
Oh,
the year. So, like last month's was like AUG 22. Now it's SEP 22.
oh, SCP. Okay, yeah.
And then just some random four digits after that. But it was funny because like last month, we were soliciting prospects #1, and it was like AUG 221234. And every time I saw it, I kept thinking about the scene from Spaceballs when they have the code for the
Yeah.
oxygen shield.
Like it's the whole Robo-Maid scene, and the code is it's fantastic.
Oh,
I don't know how risque we can get here, but I love everything about that entire scene.
oh God, that could be a perfect movie. Yeah.
Oh, hey Daniel. Sorry, can we talk to people here? I don't know.
Yeah.
Would you oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of the Carol walls here. So. Uh, but no, I'm excited from the Static, not only because it is my a published work because of comic stores, but it's also, like I said, I get to finally do something with Bards, which I've been bugging you guys about nonstop, as if that's a way of getting in. But I wanted to also work with Terry, an artist from Italy it just bleeds passion for comics, and I wanted to give her the same chance that I think other people have afforded me in getting out there. And she's got this kind of raw aesthetic to her vision that I don't see anyone else doing. It's like totally her own style, and I think it would really lend itself to horror, which is actually pushing the envelope a little bit for her, because she's more of like I'd say more of an ephemeral kind of cottagecore look. And I said, let's do some monsters and stuff, and she's like, bring it on. So it's been great.
Yeah, Terry's work is phenomenal. We're fortunate as a publisher that we came into contact with her through the anthology as well.
Yeah, it's been awesome that we were able to collaborate.
Mm-hmm. I say that was one of the big motivations for us to do an anthology, was to just kind of broaden our own experience as a publisher in terms of like who we've had the chances to work with. And going in with that kind of mindset, I think, was something that helped set this whole book up for success. Hopefully, we'll see what the sales numbers are. But sales, obviously, everybody's going to want to have high sales numbers. But aside from getting into those types of things, I would say it's already been a success because it is a gorgeous
Oh yeah.
anthology. Like getting to see everybody's stories come in, it is just phenomenal work, and each one has a very distinct feel to it. So I was happy that was one of the goals that we had, right, when selecting everybody. It was like, there's a lot of really good stuff, and you can certainly speak to this as for curating anthologies yourself, that
Oh yeah.
you're trying to balance it out, and that I have two equally good stories here, and I would put them both in the book, but then I'm starting to have too many stories that have the same feel to it, have the same look, um, and you kind of have to make some really tough decisions.
No, you do. The editorial team, and I would have invited Michelle on here too, but just going to talk about extra pages. But I know this, I'm in here because of from the static. So, but on the flip side of that too, she's in the process of moving. But
Yeah.
she's my other half in getting this done. And we had an editorial team comprised of Justin Richards, who was for Bigger Guns with Vault, and of course Fellhound, now Ringo nominated
Yes.
Fellhound. And it was a laborious process because at the end of the day you realize you're no longer just no, not just you're not because you come into it thinking, oh, we're going to rank all these. There's going to be a score, and then you start getting into the human element a little
Mm.
bit too, because like it's more about worthiness as it is anything, because they're all majority worthy, and then you have to start getting some really tough decisions about where you delineate between who gets it and who doesn't. But no, diversity is key. Thematic is key. There's that flow. I think I'd like to say that Color of Always has a distinct flow thematically throughout the course of the book, and that's also something to consider as well. Representation is huge, not only in terms of the creators themselves, but also the characters being represented in the stories, the kind of stories you want to tell. It's tough. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I, I I shouldn't say anything, right? But like Dan's story did absolutely have a big, great impression on us. And that though, even though we weren't able to pull it in from the static, it was one thing that kept our interest in working with Dan, and now we've been fortunate enough to sign on to get to publish American Dreams. So
Yeah, I am so excited to read that. I backed the Kickstarter, but I will order a copy from you as well.
thanks.
Uh, it's literally, and I know Dan and I talk about this constantly, but like the Superman vibes is ever present, and it's that special sauce of what makes a hero and what defines a hero in the classical sense is beautifully rendered, at least in the pitch. I can't wait to read it in its entirety because I'm coming into the trade blind, but I loved everything I've ever seen art wise and story
Oh,
wise.
it's a gorgeous book, and I'd say like that is a good reason for folks who will it can be discouraging to constantly get a rejection, pitch after pitch when you're trying to just put them out there and get something to break in finally into your first anthology.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Gaspero was a great example of that. He, this is he's in From the Static. Just saw his finished pages today, and they're phenomenal, right? And this was a thing where he was constantly getting discouraged from the rejections, but you got to keep at it, and eventually you will either get one accepted or it's something that just keeps getting your own work in front of somebody's eyes, and even if they can't pick you up for the anthology, they want to do something with you and they'll find a way.
Yeah, yeah, they will. I I unintentionally stumbled not to like. It is official, right? We can talk about the one that's farther down the production pike. So no, I talked about bringing it up tangentially, briefly.
Yeah.
Can I do that? Or
Yeah,
are
we're
we
good.
good?
We're good.
Okay. Well, I got invited with Fellhound. Ringo nominated Fellhound to do a story for Amongst the Stars, that sci-fi romance anthology, and I've seen art from that. That's that's gonna be gorgeous, and so I get to double dip that chip with Band of Bards, I
Mm-hmm.
believe. So that's gonna be
Yes.
good. Awesome project as well. You guys are gonna put out some pretty phenomenal stuff.
Shit, I hope so. Uh, that's the goal, right? We all want to make really good comics.
Mhm.
I I joke. I'm just a very cynical person, so I try to not put the cart before the horse, I guess, right? And I know that every step along the way gets you a little bit closer. Um, but there's always one more thing that you have to do, and there's always another task to knock off the
Yeah.
chart to make sure that you don't just break into comics, but that you stay into comics. That whole discussion was going on again this week.
I think if you're over the age of 30 or 35, you sort of develop a Reagan-esque approach to excitement, which, it's like the excited and happy and embrace it like it's going to succeed, but also sandbag a little bit too. That kind of like trust and verify version of being positive, you know.
Oh man, that might be like a very distinct trait of millennials. I don't know.
Could be very
Yeah.
much so. And I had a huge article about like the cynicism of elder millennials, and I go, we're
Mm-hmm.
not cynical, we're just realists. What are you talking about?
Right. Every time something starts to go good, you get that little red flag going up in your brain, right? Like something bad's about to happen.
Now, is amongst the static, is that official? Because you guys have been really busy.
Mm.
Is this a first official out of the gate, fully fleshed diamond like publisher level work for BOB brand? I can't quite. I think you got one right in front of it, like a single issue release.
So, prospects number one
Prospects.
was it was solicited in the August edition of previews, and so right now September's previews is live, and we've got From the Static and Final Gamble number one solicited.
Yeah,
Uh,
Liana Kangas, realtor incentive cover people. I think it's just a 10
mhm.
issuer, so bother your LCSs.
Yes, that first story arc for Final Gamble is it's 6 issues, but there are quite a bit more planned for that. So definitely buy it and support it, because that'll keep that keeps the series going.
Yeah.
Right, ongoing series. They present some very unique challenges, but they are fun. And with Final Gamble, it'll be Jorge's main retail cover, the same one that you would have seen in the Kickstarter. And whereas with the Kickstarter, we did a Matt Amon's variant. We went
Ooh.
with we were able to get a really awesome variant cover by Leanna Kingus for the Diamond release. So
I
there's
just saw the cover A in the Liana. I didn't see Matt's cover.
that's not solicited in previews. That was a Kickstarter exclusive.
Oh, okay.
So you
That's
can
why.
still
Okay.
get that from our online shop, which I know Chris is working on today because like magically a bunch of things went bad with our online store. We're like, why did everything disappear? So fun times with the old web host today. Um, yeah,
Do you think you learned a lot so far coming out of the gate? Like in terms of like, I know this is going to be your first anthology
mm.
coming in Diamond, because I learned a lot from Color of Always. I learned that I can't do it alone. And I learned that having a strong wingman is
Yeah.
pretty much the one thing that kept me going.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
so yeah, but I think we're going to be coming into our next project a lot leaner, a lot
Hmm.
meaner, and streamlined. And I'm sure you're feeling the same way probably as you
Yeah.
project.
Yeah. I don't like to watch a whole lot of the reality TV, but one of the very few things I ever did enjoy was the hell is it called? The Prophet
I think so.
with Marcus Lemonis. I don't know, but like his whole thing is product, people, and process. And you gotta take all those different shows with a ton of salt. But I think that is a pretty valid approach to a lot of these things. Is that you put a lot of effort into the product and making sure it's as good as you can make it. You invest in the people that you are working with, and who are working for you, who you're working for. Understand those relationships and how they need to mutually benefit each other, and just continuously improve on all of your processes. So I kind of joked with Chris a couple weeks ago that like I think I'm finally starting to just accept it, that everything we do is a continuous work in progress where we just continue to refine a new process or realize that we need a new process that is more formal and standing. And have a hard time with that because I dislike structure sometimes, and other times I like it.
Yeah, I actually understand completely. I do.
Yeah, I as I was laughing to myself when Michelle was talking about you being a chaos maker earlier, And I'm like, I do the same shit to Chris all the time. So he had finished prepping the files for Final Gamble's print run for the Diamond version. And then I was like telling Jorge and Robin and in our Discord, we got private channels with all the creators for their titles to just kind of have like more free flowing discussions. And I was like, oh yeah, we could put some great back matter in there, some more work in progress types of stuff. Robin, if you want to like write a letter to the fans, we can throw that in there. That'd be awesome. Chris is like, I already finished formatting all the files. Mm-hmm. I was like, to be fair, I haven't done this to you in like 2 months.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. You know, the worst part about it is that I don't know I'm doing it. And I know I mean you're retired military, so that has to grind your gears a little bit too. This like I like I am a ball of chaos, but I also like being responsible for my 5 feet of space. Like I
Yeah.
am accountable for the repercussions of my actions. I am accountable for the tasks that I have been assigned. And when I do something that's frustrating and annoying and without actually consciously being aware of it, it annoys the absolute shit out of me.
Yeah, we are certainly birds of a feather with that. Because if I cause chaos in my own life, whatever, that's fine. Like,
Yeah.
that's what my garage is for. I can make it as cluttered and terrible. This is what my office is for. I get to have all my piles of crap laying everywhere.
Oh
The
yeah.
rest of the house has to be free of those piles, otherwise I get killed. And I completely understand that, right? But when my chaos starts to bleed in onto other people's lives, and I'm like, that's when I start to get annoyed with myself.
Oh, 100% agree. And I mean, I have kind of a similar thing. That's a lovely sentiment, by the way, from Matt. Uh, there is no finish line and we
Yeah.
never stop learning. And I know more now, and I know Michelle knows even more than I do because she just has that kind of keen mind for logistics and implementation.
Mm-hmm.
And she's right. Like she's Michelle from marketing. We should joke. It's Michelle from marketing, Michelle from HR, Michelle from accounting, and I interject where I can to help. But I am the pitch man.
Mm-hmm.
I am the voice of chaos that engenders the affections of multitudes where I can and gets people on board and calms fears and soothes nervous artists and writers and I do all of those things, but I'm one loud note. I just have thankfully that note's a pleasant one. And but yeah, I think I've learned at least on the side a lot more about how the soup gets made in terms of comic production and implementation, what printers to use, what to say, how to say it, scales of cost, um, the ever what is it called? The ever challenging dalliance with what American standard size pages are. Uh, depending on who you ask, who's doing what, and how
Mm-hmm.
and where it's going.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's a lot of that stuff is interesting. But I've learned quite a bit.
Yeah. There's you absolutely need a partner in this. I don't know how anybody could do anything on a large scale all by themselves. I always say that Chris and I make this work because we have very complementary skill sets. And, yeah, it sounds like you and Michelle are very much the same way, right? You balance each other out, and that's awesome. Two people can do a hell of a lot, and then you have to also recognize when two people's just not enough anymore, and you need to start bringing some other folks in and just you know.
We are slowly doing that, but it's going to be volunteer based for the
Mm-hmm.
most part because these are all labors of love. But I think we bring, I think Justin's kind of like on emeritus retainer
Mm-hmm.
from the preceding volume. But realistically, I think Fellhound has, whether she likes it or not, whether she realizes it or not, has stepped up into being kind of that third executive
Mm-hmm.
role as artistic advisor, as consultant, as extra pair of ears, eyes, and opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I think even though I'm a giant ball of chaos, self-admitted, I am also realistic and guarded, and not as much. I think Michelle has a little bit more pragmaticism than I do,
Mm-hmm.
clearly, but we both, I work in white collar environments that require swift and firm decisions that involve budget and also
Yeah.
practical matters. So we second guess a lot about whether something is worth it or doable or proper. And so now we have that third opinion to come in from the artistic and integral side of creation that kind of either roots us, grounds us, holds us back, or tells us to go forward. And that's been instrumental.
Yeah. The other thing too is when you got that third person or that fifth person, you got a tiebreaker.
Yeah, tiebreaker too.
Yeah.
Although you'd be surprised how often we move in concert. Although I
Mhm.
suspect you and Chris do as well, like for the
Yeah.
most part.
Yeah. And that's another thing too. Right? Like, if you constantly need that tiebreaker, you probably need to take a step back and consider whether or not you need to keep moving forward at all or call it a day.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So,
What do you think is the one thing? Because you probably went in, I mean, as naive as any of us ever did going, and we know because you have an inkling and you've done some research. What's like the one major takeaway that you've learned that you didn't
mm,
know you were going to learn from all of it, everything so far?
hmm. I will say that the lead time in production of comics is something that I would have never wrapped my head around. And again, right, Chris is the guy who makes comics, and he had that,
Yeah.
that kind of experience coming into this. Um, I supposedly know how to do marketing and business administration and things like that nature. Um, that's probably a lot of bullshit that just like some fancy piece of paper on the wall says. But yeah, I don't know if anybody could understand that without having gone through the process. And you know, also you don't believe it because you're like, it's just, why should it take so long? What are the things forcing that kind of structure? And
It's almost its own animal though. Like
mm-hmm.
it's almost this weird mystical element
Yeah,
where like fate itself gains a form of sentience
yeah,
and just it's like you're wrestling it to the floor like a greased pig. Like, oh, we have a delay on this because blank. And, oh, the printer
yeah,
just got back to us and this one thing doesn't work. That's esoteric as hell. Or
yeah.
and all of a sudden you blink and you're 3 months later.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it's just wild. And I think we have a firmer grasp of that now. But going into it blind, because you have a day job. Chris has a
Mm-hmm.
day job before he got into this. I have a day job, and my day job is in marketing, literally. So I have vendors, I have expectations, I have
Mm-hmm.
deadlines. I know things can go sideways, but at the end of the day, if I pay enough money, the 9 times out of 10, the thing that I want will be the thing that I get, and it'll be moderately on time. That is, by anyone listening right now, if you ever get into this, all of those rules go completely to shit when it comes to comic production. I firmly believe that you need to have a firm schedule and a tight schedule because it will not stick to it. But if you're disciplined enough and you know where your timelines and your sight lines are, you'll get there. But like I can't articulate it better than that. I just feel like it'll always go just slightly pear shaped in this industry.
Nothing goes as planned, that's for sure. Part of it is because there are so many things outside of your control, right? And excuse me, not to ever throw any single entity under the bus, but a lot of it does have to do with distribution.
Large part too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that comes back to the fact that there has been a sleepy distribution model. Um,
We
people
had a
who
whole
are,
episode on that, by the way, an whole
oh
episode
gosh,
on
yeah,
distribution.
yes, um, and it's very different from regular books, prose, like, your standard types of book retailers. Like that whole distribution system is completely different, and folks who have a background on that side of publishing see how comics publishing goes, and they're like, "What the fuck?" Um,
You're literally walking into a room where a large man at a desk says, "Go ahead, go somewhere else."
yeah.
And it's like you got nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That is changing slightly now because of everything, but it's still mostly that. Don't sell artists short. We can also take
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah. Oh gosh, but yeah, that's those are things that you just, and part of the reason you can't anticipate it or plan for it is because so much of that knowledge is very closely guarded. Again, something breaking down, but there's still a lot more that I wish I could have learned before jumping into this. But, you know, as mad as it made me, I had to accept that there was no way I was going to learn some of these things without just doing them.
Well, I know that the resources are out there if you know where to look, sort of. But like soup to nuts though, it's not just production and implementation. Even on like I am getting into comic writing only within the last 3 or 4 years. I've been collecting for about 5 or 6, 7 years now. But like I've been writing poetry and short fiction to like an audience of maybe five on Tumblr, going back to like 2010, 2020 to 2006 ish. And even before that, it was like Zanga and stuff. And because I write because it needs to come out of me. That's
Mm-hmm.
that calling you get when you're a creator. But I didn't know you could just write a script and up until maybe half a decade ago, even you crowdfund it and or submit it for a pitch, and somebody may eventually like it, and you might do something with it. Because I didn't even know what a script looks like, but it's out
Mm-hmm.
there. But I didn't even know what it looked like or if I was even capable of doing it until COVID happened and Gail Simone
Oh gosh.
posts a
Yeah.
tweet and says, "Hey everybody, who wants to learn how to write a comic?
Mm-hmm.
Here's what scripts look like. This is where you go. Here's what this looks like. Here's the cardinal rules. There is no perfect moment.
Mm-hmm.
Set a realistic timetable. Don't be your own impediment. That kind of a thing." And I said, "Okay, I'll give it a shot." And then, by the way, Ringo nominated Fellhound came out of nowhere. Read my script for from Gail's school and said, "Brent, you're pretty good. Let's do this for insert anthology here." I think it was
Mm-hmm.
Project Big Hype, and the rest is history. But I mean, that was an open secret.
Project Big Hype. This Project Big Hype?
Yeah, Project Big Hype.
Hey.
Yep, that's the story. That was a
Yes.
Gail Simone comic school story
Very
originally.
cool. There is it. Oh, the cool thing is seeing the people in this anthology that are going to be from the Static. That's always exciting.
Oh yeah, a
But
lot of alumni.
yeah, but also one of the things that we had to kind of like make sure we were checking our own biases and not just picking the people that we recognized and stuff like that. So that's another twist to that whole thing. I'm looking up Sojourner. Oh, fuck yeah, I remember that. That was just marvelous.
That was my first ever comic script.
Yeah, oh my god. Yeah. Again, say that we have to check our own biases when we're grading it. But when I saw the submission from Brent Fisher, it was just like, we're gonna put that into the accepted column before I even look at it. I was like, this is new. I had read some of your other scripts and things like that before, and just like every single script that I've ever seen of yours, it's just like, holy shit! There's such an economy of storytelling in all your scripts, and that regardless of the length, you get a full story in there and just so much emotion, whether it's like in 4 pages and 10 pages and 24 pages, 30, like you've got just damn it, sorry, you have such
Oh,
a
you're
knack that it's a pleasure to be able to publish a story by Brent Fisher.
Oh, thank you. I really do try to inject a modicum of a big, that the classic structure of a beginning, of middle, and an end. And
Mm.
I want to input as much humanity and import into the stories as, and I think that's key. Is if you can relate to it in any fashion, I want everybody to have a little sliver of that they can relate to, and that's what I strive for. There's a quote from Stan Lee that if you want to be a good writer, read as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I read a substantial amount of books when I was younger.
Yeah,
And I think I draw from that quite a bit when I compose.
I believe it. A well-rounded reader will always be able to draw on something and produce something that's very unique. And you can tell when somebody maybe sticks into more of a comfortable niche, and not that they're not making awesome stories themselves too, but they have a more very, I don't even want to call it one or two dimensional, but they have their set style, and you know what kind of story you're going to get from that person every time. And that's not to say that's bad or negative. It's just how it is, right? Um, and then someone who just gobbles up all sorts of different genres and decides, hey, I don't really enjoy, or I don't think that I enjoy reading romance novels because they have all these silly covers with, you know, Fabio on them and whatever. But I'm gonna just like pick up half a dozen of these and read them and see what I can learn from it.
No, it's true. It contextualizes the human experience, even something as frivolous as romance or something as robust as an autobiography. Really, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, from wet to dry, there's always something to paint with. I really and I hesitate to say I have versatility in scope of genre, but I do notice patterns in my writing that are concurrent themes. I always write about, or I have a tendency to lean into familial connections, daughters and fathers, fathers and sons, or mothers and daughters, and that kind of a thing, and intergenerational play, and also concepts of life and death in a very, I know it sounds like overly profound, but I mean very literal when I say that. I
Mm-hmm.
tend to have a tendency of incorporating like sacrifice, how to deal with loss. One of the best lines I have ever written was for a fan fiction on AO3, and it was we're indebted to grief because it gives memory purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I really
That's
feel
good.
that if you cling to memory, you can craft a story out of anything.
You know, you're you're supposed to write what you know, right? And you write what you're passionate about. Um, and it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong or bad that you have a wheelhouse. It's something that you have a personal interest in, so you can put a lot more of yourself into that story. So, yeah, I don't think there's anything more boring than trying to like push through reading a book that you can tell the person has no passion for. They're just writing it because they got an advance.
Well, I don't want to put Daniel on blast, but that's kind of why I feel American Dream stands out. I think that we have as much as I want the superhero genre to kind of return in non big three spaces, although it belongs in a big three space. I just feel like indie books are where we can kind of see a resurgence of what I think is lost, which is the classical hero story,
Yeah,
something along those lines. So I want that kind of humanity reinterjected into the discourse of how we consume storytelling.
I think that's one of the things, right? That you make the parallel to Superman. It stands out right with American Dreams because you have uh, a young immigrant, and we often forget that about Superman because say frame it that he was an alien, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that's the whole metaphor for it, right?
Yeah.
He's an immigrant coming into middle, breadbasket America, uh, being brought up with very not traditional values, but like very salt of the earth kind of values that show respect to all people that you meet, show compassion for them. You know,
Mm-hmm.
sure. There's that stuff just gets lost because once you know a small indie publisher isn't concerned about coordinating multi-year long crossover events. Like
Yeah.
and again, I'm not trying to say anything bad about that. Like that's the business side of it. That's what's making those
Well,
publishers a lot of money. So there's natural reasons to put so much energy into that, but then you lose those things along the way.
I don't mind throwing a bomb into the room when it comes to the big three in terms of that, because I mean, we are seeing that though, like with Teenie Howard and Kelly Thompson, and to be perfectly blunt, although there's exceptions, Tom Taylor, Hopeless Hallam, a few others, but predominantly female authors are coming into these spaces and they're challenging the dynamic of what it means to be emotionally authentic and vulnerable and accessible as a character, regardless of
Mm-hmm.
whether they're a hero or a villain. But Captain Marvel, my personal crucible of joy, is is doing wonders with under Kelly Thompson's watch. But it was a mold that was broken by like uh, probably the life of Captain Marvel and a few other a few other helping hands along the way. But you're seeing that now. You're seeing the humanization again coming back into resurgence among a few pioneering authors, and they happen to be the
Hmm.
ones catching the most flack. I think for
Yeah.
doing so. But we are getting there. But I really do feel that the early 2000s and the late 1990s, of which I was a reader
Hmm.
to a degree, I think I pulled out right before I went to college around what 2000, and I got out right before it really kind of just blew up huge. But I think it did irreparable harm to the nature of a variety of comic creation in terms of character development and where they call from. And we're finally kind of rediscovering that again, that humanity of purpose. And if we keep chasing it, I think we'll get better each time. But it's like Band of Bards coming. You're coming in at just the right time. You guys are ostensibly the voices of empathy in not only bringing more people to the table like Extra Pages Press is, but also in terms of the kind of stories you want to propagate. And there's a reclamation effort coming, I think,
Hmm.
with comics. This is all part of that.
It certainly feels that there's that wave coming where there's been. You can tell people have wanted stories like that. They've wanted something that isn't just the same sort of kind of formula of the big two trying to be replicated and copied by everybody else. And again, I, I have a whole stack of Marvel comics here. I certainly am a fan of that stuff too. But God, if I only read stories like that, I would just get so bored. Um,
Yeah.
there's I always say like the biggest problem in comics is that there aren't enough publishers and there isn't enough money to go around for all the talent that's out there.
And it's becoming a little bit of a crowded train with even the crowdfunding part. I fear for the entrepreneurs who are coming into the fold now, who are saying, "Oh, I figured it out from watching them do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to create this Kickstarter." And when it's just them, like there's a really great, I'm going to put a plug in for them right now. There's something called like a Lucha Forever,
Okay.
and it just came out. It's just a dad who happens to be a comic writer. He found an artist. It's like a two-man thing. Um, and it's got a few $100 under its belt. Just launched today, but it looks awesome. I think it's awfully cool. But like I hope they make it. That's a
Mm-hmm.
$5,000 goal, and they don't have an army of folks built up over time behind them. And I think that we're also seeing a lot of publishers for some reason, like Boom, muscling into the crowdfunding space, and that makes it more difficult too, on top
Yeah.
of the industry and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly good things in that you hope that when a larger publisher like that comes to that platform, they'll bring more people who hadn't previously used it, and that those people will stick around and cross pollinate. That's the optimistic view of it.
I
I
think
tend to be a
they'll,
bit more cynical.
yeah, me too. I think there'll be a little bit of column A, but not necessarily a lot of it. And a lot of some column B too would be detrimental.
Yeah.
May come out in the wash. I don't know, but a lot of crowdfunding is based on trust and goodwill.
Mm-hmm.
And if you expend too much of it, that'll hurt everyone.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that most Kickstarters that I've seen have fulfilled their promises, but there have been a few exceptions along the way, and for one reason or another, and that just it's because people get nervous. They go, "I didn't get my book, so what do I do
Mm-hmm.
now?" And that kind of a thing. But I guess we'll see. But I still believe that I unfortunately am not the kind of person who's going to write 100 pitches and hurl them against the wall at Image or the bigger guys or anything. I'm not built for that. I have
Yeah.
very clear ideas of the kind of stories I want to tell. So I'm probably going to be a predominantly a crowd-funded endeavor person, and then I'll go after a publisher if they feel it's worth of their time.
Yeah. No, you know, it's nice that there is all that flexibility within comics now because of
There is.
crowdfunding.
I appreciate the hustle, by the way, of people who can do that. I just because of the nature of my job and my life, I
Yeah.
can't. And again though, I know what I want to tell, and
Hmm.
they're not always the sexiest stories in the world. So I
Yeah.
get it.
So I do want to say I completely agree with Matt's point there. I've never read a Daredevil comic. I think part of it is because he's a lawyer and he's Catholic, and it's playing against my own biases as someone who was raised in the church. And
Great Lakes kids, what up,
I
Catholic?
know, right? But my fellow St. Bonaventure classmate, Matt Kressler, he's a professor down in Charleston. He recently had an academic paper that was featured that it was talking about like Daredevil and his role in Catholicism. I I wish that there was like a publicly available one of that, but it's one of those like academic journals that
Yeah,
you
I
get.
have one of those. I get
Yeah.
it.
So, but like it's like oh, that's cool. Matt actually got to do a one pager with Marcus Jimenez, and
Oh yeah.
I think they might be doing something else bigger now too. So that's cool. But my rambling
Shout out.
point,
So shout out to Marcus and Dauntless Comics.
yeah, phenomenal, awesome, awesome publishing house. Another great friend in the community, person that we've always been able to just sit back and chat with and kind of work over publisher problems with.
Yeah, there's some shared grief there, I am sure.
Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff that like you need to be able to vent about sometimes, or just get like a second pair of eyes on. But you realize that I should not tweet about that. So, hmm? Oh, night. Okay, thank you. Love you. Wife's heading off to bed.
Aw,
She just let me know she put the chickens in.
love it.
Yeah. Anyway.
But no, this more to the point about the crossovers and it's out of the way stuff. First off, Daredevil. Love everything about Daredevil. Um, the only problem I have with Daredevil is the way he's written, and I know it's like the whole point of Daredevil. Like I can dip my toe in, and I'm basically hooked no matter who's writing them if they're half good. But for like every so often, it gets to be a little much. There's a Saturday Night Live skit that had a whole bunch of puppets. And it was like a children's show. They were introducing a new puppet who I believe was like some kind of like army veteran at Grenada, and all he would do is keep on bringing. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? It's like no, that happened. Well, yeah, there wasn't any joy in Grenada, and he would talk about like napalm strikes and stuff, and smell of burnt flesh and hair, and it was just terrifying. And it's like, why is this puppet here? Well, that's the same thing with Matt Murdock talking about being Catholic and agonizing about his sins. I just feel like it comes up as like an introduction all the time as an interjection.
Mm-hmm.
But aside from that, though, phenomenal character, and I
Yeah.
actually love straight level heroes.
Me too. Um, I'd say I think with that, that's what makes that dichotomy of Daredevil and Punisher so entertaining.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, you absolutely do get two people who are in direct conflict with each other. And for me, I love Punisher. Um, I think there's a lot of nuance to that character that people lose because they just focus on the big guns and all the violence, and they completely lose the point that the whole this is a character who was more or less like a victim of systems himself,
Hmm.
and then the a guy who's going out thinking that he's doing something good, something just, and then just wanting to kind of step back and live his life in peace, and the sins of your past catch up to you. That whole thing, but like. There's so much more depth to Frank Castle than most people, I think, give it any credit for, and part of that's because of how the Punisher skull has been co-opted.
Oh, 100%. Especially his logo, which now has graciously finally been changed.
Yeah, that's
But
interesting. I've been I will put any Punisher comic in my pull list. So I'm wondering how that one is kind of steering to see like,
Don't
um,
know.
because right, anybody that doesn't follow it, he's got the new logo because he was sucked in to be a tool of the hand, a la Elektra, and so that'll be neat to see if when he eventually breaks from the hand, if he goes back to the old logo or what. But I'm really going
The
down a rabbit hole.
No, no, you're not. We're just tangentially with Daredevil to Punisher. We're only two layers deep. Uh, I actually understand that it's mentality. That's why one of the reasons why I like. And some people don't like Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, and the way I do. She is, if you take the whole power out of the equation, I get it. She's
Mm-hmm.
very powerful, but I also like she has this veneer of righteousness to her demeanor
Mm-hmm.
that is sort of agnostic to morality. I mean, she is good, demonstratively good, but I wouldn't necessarily. She's written. Okay, here's a fun thing: when she's written by men, she's written as like some fascist, lawful good whack job, and when she's written by women, she's chaotic good all the way to the max. And that's more the righteousness that I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Like where she fucks up a lot, and but she lives with the consequences. And so I love that kind of gray ambiguity of a hero that kind of knows or punches and then asks a question later, and
Mm-hmm.
then she owns up to it though. And I think Frank does too. But it's an interesting comparison now that I think about it. But anyway, yeah, more comments. Sorry.
Oh man, talk about a crossover there. Carol Danvers and Frank Castle.
And if you don't think it's possible, she was a CIA agent and her partner was Logan. So she can totally partner up with Punisher whenever she frickin' wants.
Mm, gosh, now there's a trio too. Holy cow! Oh man.
That's why her and Wolverine play poker all the time. They've known each other for like a million years.
Hmm. See, I'm learning stuff because my first exposure to Captain Marvel was from the movie. Right.
Oh,
Yeah. Right. So I mean, you're completely different from the actual comic character.
yeah, yeah.
And
I'll
then
regale you sometime, but not
you're
now.
gonna have
Right?
to. Yeah, I'll have to. You gotta give me like just be Carol Danvers tutor. Um, but then like this past year, I went back and rewatched all the seasons of the old X-Men cartoon once it was on Disney Plus, and it was like the oh gosh, I can't even think of the movie, but the meme where it's was it Leonardo DiCaprio? I think is the one that it's in. And he's
Oh,
staring
don't
at the
worry, darling.
TV, and
Oh
he's
no,
staring at the
is it?
TV with his beer, and he's pointing at the TV.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That meme.
Yeah, um, but like there's one episode where it shows Rogue's past of having taken Carol Danvers' powers and stuff. I was like, oh, I know this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I back behind me somewhere. I actually have the issue on the wall. It was an Avengers annual from March, I believe, of 1981, and that was actually the first appearance of Rogue and
Mm.
Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, and yeah, over the Golden Gate Bridge, and that's why Rogue can fly. By the way, I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if you knew that. Is she can fly basically because she stole almost all of Ms. Marvel's portfolio in that altercation.
Yeah, yeah, that was interesting, especially to see it in the old X-Men cartoon and their take on it. But
They
more or
did a
less,
great job.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, such a great. That's what I always say. Folks who didn't have a local comic shop growing up, a lot of times relied on those movies and the cartoons, and that's what got me into comics. Where like the old X-Men cartoons, um, Spawn movie. Uh, gosh, there's even a really old Captain America movie that is terrible to
There
watch
is.
now.
Oh, it's
But
horrible.
yeah, but I mean, I fell in love with the character watching that movie. Um, all I ever wanted to be growing up was Steve Rogers. Um, yeah, like all those different things. So again, you get into that discussion about how much value do all these movies and stuff bring to comics and all that, and people getting a little bit of gatekeepy around. Well, you don't know what the comics is like, and what the real character is supposed to be like, and it's
Oh, it's terrible.
yeah,
Yeah, I
like
get it.
you got to think about the folks who don't have the privilege of having a local comic shop, and
Well, do you know, like when I've been collecting Carol Danvers stuff since my mom had got me comic books, and that was like 1995. And I didn't really start collecting in earnest again until about 2014.
Hmm.
This is all about most of the stuff in this room is about only about going on a decade old or
Mm.
less. But oh yeah, when I first started unveiling my collection, just sharing it with people and stuff, and did the whole Carol Collector moniker because that wasn't my original Twitter handle. If you want to dig deeper, you can find out what it used to be as part of that podcast I was on. But but you know who embraced me first and longest before I even started getting noticed by anybody else is the movie fans, without a question. The MCU Carol people embraced me
Hmm.
with open arms and thought my collection was the coolest thing in the world back when I barely had anything. And I really started getting into the comics fans until much later. And among comic fans, the first group that really became befriended me and said, "Hey, this is awesome! You're doing such a great job," and didn't rip on me for collecting. Oh, Captain Marvel stuff was Venom people.
Huh.
Yeah, the Venom people. I don't know. God bless them. If you're a Venom stan, you collect Venom stuff. You're probably the nicest person on the face of the earth. I don't know how it shakes, but it is. But no,
Oh gosh.
MCU puff. So I'm loyal to the MCU fans.
Hmm.
The nice ones at least. Don't gatekeep these characters, and just
Yeah.
embrace them, all the permutations of them.
Oh gosh. Because like, if you made it one for one, the movie characters and storylines to the comics, what the hell would be the point? Like,
Yeah.
I like that. For the most part, they've stuck to 95% of the comics canon, and using the actual very popular movies or comics storylines to make the movies into. Right? I mean, how freaking excited was everybody when you saw Gore, live action
Oh
Gore?
yeah.
And I'll admit, like, I was kind of curious how much I would like it because Christian Bale didn't really look too much like the comics Gore. When I got into the theater and the movie started, I didn't even think about that the entire time.
Nah, he fucking killed it. It's Bale, so I mean, Bale will kill anything he does.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
you know, um, we need to do a separate podcast on just being this age and growing up with pop culture, because Daniel brought up the Shadow and
Mm.
Phantom, and don't forget just like all of those around that series. Like we were grateful. We were grateful for these garbage movies,
Oh gosh.
and I'm being loving when I say garbage. I'm just saying like they're wonderful, but like they weren't great compared to what we have
No.
now. But it's all we got.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh, remember when Stargate came out?
Oh
I
yeah.
made, the biggest promise, the worst and best promise I ever made was if they make this a television show, I will own every single episode of this freaking show. And by God, I have a DVDs in my attic of every episode of Stargate SG-1 because like they gave us a jewel when we were
Mm.
that age. That's like, oh, I
Yeah.
swear.
There really were just a plethora of really awesome comics movies, but not the titles that you would think of, right? But like, right, Chris, I'm sorry, but the best Batman movies were the two Tim Burton movies, hands down.
They did a phenomenal job.
Yeah,
They did a phenomenal
um,
job.
you didn't have, and it won't be some kind of culture warrior that all the CGI is, you know, ruined it, the storytelling, blah blah blah. Like, I'm very glad that we have the quality of CGI that we do now, because even when in the mid '90s, and it was the CGI that we had then was like cutting edge. We knew that it still sucked.
We
you know,
did.
yeah,
We did, and we didn't care
no,
because that was the bone that was thrown to us. And by God, we were
mm-hmm.
going to gobble it up like loyal little gremlins because getting a sci-fi or a fantasy movie in the '90s,
Mm.
diamond in the rough, man. Diamond in the Independence Day.
Oh,
What was the other one? I called it like the Holy Trinity. It was like The Matrix, The 13th Floor, and Dark City.
mm.
And like, I mean, you just didn't get stuff like that.
No,
Not like, and yeah. So I probably shouldn't put them all on a pedestal like I do, but like Phantom and Shadow and all of those films from the mid '90s, early
mm-hmm.
'90s. But Batman though. I'm sure did you buy the Batman '89 comics?
I didn't because I missed the first couple, and then I just never.
Oh,
Yeah,
get the trade. You're
I'm gonna have
fine.
to get a
I mean,
trade.
but yeah, they did an amazing job with that. Superman '78 too. Really,
Yeah.
realistically, I mean, if you don't party out with the Superman theme from the original score, Mummy's perfect. Mummy. That one, Mummy is like, what year was the Mummy? It was like late '90s, right?
It was the later '90s, yeah. And
Yeah.
and Grace, you just saw the big head coming out of the sand and swallowing everybody up. That was awesome.
No, that's iconic. I know Michelle is a big Mummy. In fact, she's
Yeah.
going to New York Comic Con to apparently walk in front of Brendan Fraser, thank him, and then begin to weep. That's the plan.
Oh my gosh.
Uh,
I
uh,
I I hope I wish I could see that. Just be the fly on the wall to watch.
but I'm a big fan. I think the biggest inside joke with no one, because it's all the only kind of inside jokes I had growing up as a young adult for the most part, is I'd yell out to like my friend Seth, "I'm Ox in the moon," and because he and like two people would get that, but I still yeah I'm a bit of a fan of the Mummy. It was a
That's
good
funny.
movie.
We also had the Tick cartoon.
Oh yeah. Well, you want
Gosh.
to get into cartoons. I
Oh,
mean,
you can really go down the rabbit hole.
yeah, there's some good stuff there too. I mean,
Yes.
getting home from school and cracking open Animaniacs
Mm,
and that kind of thing. But no, there's a whole bunch of good stuff there.
it was.
Ghostbusters from the '80s, late '80s, real
Mhm.
Ghostbusters. Um,
With Egon's curly Q blonde hair.
yeah, yeah. So
Oh
just
gosh.
randomly shout out pop culture references for the rest of the night. Hey, it's Sally.
Hey, how's it going?
Sally and I just closed the books and the pre-orders for our Dauntless one shot, so that's gonna be pretty dope.
Mhm. I gosh, I can't let myself go down that tangent. I'm just gonna keep talking about all the
I'll drag you
cartoons.
to
I
hell.
know.
I swear, I will. You don't let me in control of the conversation.
That's that is my problem with my brain is that I will completely let this go free form all night long and forget that there were actually some things to like plug and talk about and such. So my favorite thing is to have just completely awkward hard segues. So
Let's do it.
do you wanna who wants to see
The
page
war in the
one?
Ukraine. No, sorry.
We really want to get me going.
No, no, go.
Um, who wants to see the first page of Brent's comic and from the static? Everybody raise their hand. Cool. Um, slowly go through the screen share window. Select the right window to share. Not my bank information.
Yeah, don't share that.
Yeah, there it is. That really didn't help
Terry
anything.
Terry sent me that and was like, "Does this look all right?" You know, I was like,
Yes.
"Yeah, I think you're doing okay, Terry."
So
She lettered and colored too.
mhm. Terry was one person showing that, and she just phenomenal talent.
Yeah, I don't know how to describe her style. Like she's got this sort of European, which I guess stands to reason, but like the kind of sort of Dutch French graphic novel look
Mm-hmm.
to it that just is indescribable. The shadows and the textures.
Mm. I, I I just like looking at the thatch hut roofs. I don't know why that gives me so much pleasure to look at those houses.
Yeah, I love the human features actually, like the face of her
Mm-hmm.
father and just the contour of the river and like in the shadows
Mm-hmm.
underneath the people as they're walking alongside. And she's great at hair and animals too.
Yeah, and those are really difficult things. Like hair, you wouldn't think of some of the things that are hard to draw, but because you just take stuff for granted. Some of us take hair for granted, but that can be a difficult thing to pay attention to, and the small shadows that hair casts on a person, and that if you don't get the shadows right, the everybody might not realize what it is it's wrong, but they'll notice something's off.
Yeah.
But would you like to talk a little bit about Beholden?
Yeah, Beholden is kind of a double entendre in terms of the name, but I won't spoil why. Most of my titles have some kind of hopefully double or triple meaning to them the it's about a girl who's lost the ability to see from birth in a small village in Gaul as is being just prior to being raided by some or by a Roman invasion force, and the fallout from that attack takes her on a little bit of a journey far afield from once she once called home, and she has to rely on her courage and as well as the rest of her senses to make some smart choices for what will unfold before her after that. And it's a lot of fun. It's scary, it's spooky, and I think it has a little bit of a very Brent twist to the conclusion.
It's a wonderful story. I I'll always say I am a very unfeeling person. I don't experience a whole lot of emotion or acknowledge it at least. And just reading the script for this and the pitch, you know I get choked up. Um, when I start to feel something that viscerally, I know something's good. So
It's about love and loyalty and conviction and faith in yourself, but not, and also perhaps not to render judgment on appearances alone. And when you're deprived of the primary sense that often is the crux of what renders judgment, it opens up possibility.
yeah, it's beautiful. I'm really excited for this. I'm really grateful that you submitted this story to our anthology, and that you are allowing us to publish it.
Yay! Happy to be part of it.
So, all right, I'm stop sharing so get your last looks. I hope nobody better screenshot it. All right, cool. I am going to briefly share some stuff so that I make sure I am actually using the live stream to plug things, because that's what a smart person should do, right?
Yep, just get a shot in for our EPP thing, and I'll go dark so you can get everything in one go.
I'm just putting it in the link to our tweet in the chat there. So if you click that, you'll go to our pinned tweet at the Bards, and that will give you the graphics for the pre-order codes for both From the Static and for Final Gamble #1. And if you are really into that Liana Kangas variant, I always vacillate between Kangas and Kangas, and I know
Liana Kangas.
Kangas. I know it. I'm letting my Western New Yorker Kang nasally accent. Which it just wants to invade everything. But if you really like Liana's variant, there is a full foil virgin 1 in 20 incentive. So tell your comic shop to buy 20 copies and get one for you. Yeah, that's all right. That's enough of me trying to peddle my wares. I want to talk about Extra Pages Press, but I also want to give shout out. Brent is in Penny Dreadfuls, published by Source Point Press.
Available in all comic stores.
Yes, right now it is. I got this my last trip to Pulp 716. And I would say I love my local comic shop because they do a fantastic job of selling indies, of promoting indies. This book there's a rack that has a whole bunch of DC stuff on it right out front, and the other side of the rack, and it's not like the back of the rack, like everybody all the foot traffic walking is going to see both sides of that, but it's a rack of equal space that DC gets. It's all a bunch of indies. That's where this was at, mixed in with the IDW stuff, the Vault stuff, the Boom stuff. So really great to see a comic shop that does so well, is so dedicated to promoting the indies.
Now, and just for the sake of giving them a push, it's Pulp 716, 2 locations in Buffalo. Unfortunately, they do not ship, but if you're ever in the greater Buffalo area, highly recommend you stop by, grab yourself a flavored latte of your choice, and sit down and read for a little bit.
That's right.
They make like a pushki or something as well, right? Like a little pocket.
They have these planky things that a local bakery by them makes. Yeah, they're pretty nice little puff pastry type thing. That's all stuffed. Mm, those are tasty. But yeah, all your favorite characters and drinks in one place. Yeah. Honestly, I think I said it probably last time, but like honestly, without Pulp, Band of Bards wouldn't exist because
Really?
yeah. So Amy and Jay own Pulp 716, and they kind of split the two locations amongst themselves, which they each take one store that they regularly go to. So Amy is typically at the North Tonawanda shop that I go to. Um,
Okay.
the other one is in Lockport, which is where Chris lives, so he will stop into there. But Amy was just always super kind, and would humor me with my awkward questions as I learned a lot more about like the retailer perspective, and um, you know asked what kind of things that other indie publishers do that catches her attention and gets them to buy a bunch of copies. Um, her encouragement and her willingness to be helpful. I think that was a big part of what gave us confidence to feel like we could launch a publisher. So
Nice. No, Amy's the best. I am lucky to call Amy friend a little bit later down the pike than you, but I'm a new acquisition,
no,
and but it's been wonderful ever since.
super awesome people. Definitely, it's funny the wonderful things that Buffalo does have, and that when you live here and you see that there's something really awesome, you take kind of take it for granted, and that you would just figure if we have it, then everybody else must have it, and we forget the unique things that we do have around here that make it special.
There, you're like Columbus. I'm in Columbus, Ohio, and we have Rat Pack Comics, Crazy Comics, Laughing Ogre, Capital City Comics, World's Greatest Comics. I think Flying Monkey, and that's most of them. I'm missing one or two, but like we're in a very comic rich city, and I'm very lucky for that. But I think Buffalo has those two pulp locations, and I
Mm-hmm.
think there's one on the outskirts, and I think there's Gutter Pop
Yep,
as well, and they're nice. They're
they're
pretty
awesome.
friendly. They're awesome too. So yeah, I'm really I appreciate the embarrassment of riches that we
Mm-hmm.
have where we reside, because I probably wouldn't have been able. I wouldn't be where I am now without Crazy Comics, and
Mm-hmm.
they're the newest kids on the block.
Yeah,
Um, the fun story about my LCS is that it's husband and wife, and they
cool.
were married. Alan and Nia, they were married by Stan Lee.
No way.
Yeah, he did
That
it at a Comic Con, and he's like, "You two should start a comic shop together. You both love comics so much," and they did. And it's been about 3 or 4 years now.
so. If we're gonna rattle off all of our local shops,
Yeah, local shops for Daniel living
yeah,
in New York City.
yes. Good luck naming all of them in New York City. God. Oh gosh, God. I
Midtown is the best. I do like them a lot.
yeah. Um, I don't I don't want to sidetrack into talking about the street team, but that's one of the things I think about
Yeah,
with that whole concept is that I as I recruit more and more folks to the Band of Art street team, I'm almost going to need like a sub team just for New York City. Like I don't even think that we could get by with only one person per borough. It'd probably have to be multiple people per borough. And I should probably visit New York City at some point in my life.
no, I've been to the outskirts. I went to New York City as a child in the '80s, which both being a child and the '80s probably wasn't the most auspicious of endeavors. I don't recall any of it, so I suppose it's for the best. But I do want to go back as soon as I physically can, now that I'm in this space, to go not to just the Flame Con, but to New York City Comic Con.
Mm, yeah,
Two shops, two shops. Yeah, Sally's shops take care of her pretty good.
that's
If you want
true.
to give them a shout out, Sally, go for it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about places in Buffalo that don't ship, so it's not like dropping a French comic shop is going to do any harm. I'm just curious to see where you crash.
I, the European shops intrigue me because I wonder how different they are,
I don't
or
think there's that much.
if there's that much difference. You know.
I mean, I don't know how I became her friend. That's the kind of chaos bomb I am. But I'm friends with a young lass from Wales, and she's a cosplayer, loves Captain Marvel and everything, and she's like working in a comic shop, I think in Cardiff or something like that. But
Mhm.
somebody, but like from what I'm seeing, I could walk in there, and the only reason I would know things were different is the accent and the prices. And then, other than that, it looks like a regular comic shop. Oh, cool.
So there's one thing to see in Paris.
Yeah, yeah. I came for the comic. I should say that at customs. What brings you to France? You're in a comic shop in Paris, and
I,
you literally should just go there and leave, just to
uh,
spite fate and
oh
spite
my
fate and
god.
God. Walk past the Eiffel Tower. Don't even look at it. Just drive to the suburbs, hit up that comic shop, and out.
I'm like, all right, I'm out of here. I'm going to go see Big Ben.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're done. We're done.
Oh my
Oh yeah,
gosh.
London's a good example too. Just go to is that Forbidden Planet? Forbidden
Mm.
Planet? I think it's but yeah, just go there and leave. The best comic shop in France is one of mine. Oh yeah, I would assume so. Who are they? Name names. Can you name
Yeah.
names? Is that a problem? I want to know. But no, it's cool to hear about international shops.
Mm.
I only know really about there's a shop in Germany that wanted to carry Color of Always, but I
Mm.
don't know if it worked out. But it seems like the rules are vaguely the same. It's just getting the books there that's hard.
Yeah. Mm. I was learning something about the international stuff. Oh, hopefully I have more of an official announcement, but we do have now. We brought
Ooh.
on board a couple of um, not full time, but like in house Band of Bards staff. Um, so Nicole DeAndrea did talk about it in her newsletter, so I don't mind sharing it publicly. I don't think, but Nicole's been doing a bunch of different projects for us or taking on editorial work for us, like title to title. And I just suggested, like, this is going to get really complicated if we keep doing separate things for each title you're working on. Do you want to just have like an open contract with us to, for I can't even think of the words anymore, so we're hitting at that point in the live stream where my brain's going to stop working. But
It's okay. We're hitting the ceiling. We can pull the plug
yeah.
soon.
Uh,
But no, who is this again?
so Nicole DeAndrea.
Okay,
So she's
cool.
awesome. She does so many fantastic things. She works for Scout. Just a phenomenal editor. Great comics person. We were lucky enough to be brought into contact with her because of Elise Russell. So full credit to Elise there.
This
And
is awesome.
yeah, so yeah, so we'll have Nicole helping us out in a much more formal way as part of Band of Bards, and kind of like our actual first real um, editorial hire. Exciting hiring people. And we
Hey,
also,
cool.
yeah, and we brought on board some extra help with sales and marketing this week too. So
Cool.
that I don't want to say too many things about, just because I asked that person if they mind us making a more like public press release to announce it, or if they would prefer to kind of like not keep it on the down low, but not
That's a
everybody.
good policy to
Yeah,
have.
you never know how people are going to react to stuff publicly and start dog piling on someone, or just some like completely out of the blue, completely unexpected. Why the hell are people doing this thing? So before putting anybody that we work with on public blast like that, I'm going to ask them like, hey, do you mind if I say this publicly?
I do some shadow work on the side
Yeah.
for some of our friends and whatnot too. So it's probably better to double check to be sure because I'm not on the books for some of the stuff I help with sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool though. No, I'm happy to hear you guys growing and everything. It's like two different people. That's crazy. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, and thought about this because when you mentioned the book in Germany, this person, the other person we brought on to help with sales and marketing, they they were explaining to me some of the different guidelines for selling books within Germany and Austria, and some of the content that will just kind of get you red flagged and not available to be purchased in those countries. Um, so, learned a little
Cool.
bit about that. That's interesting stuff.
Well, I guess you want what where can we find Band of Bards online?
Mm. Uh, oh, I hope you can find us at bandofbards.com. But we were doing, like, I forget if I mentioned it when we were live or if it was before we went live, but our we were doing a lot, Chris, I shouldn't say Chris was doing work on the online shop because, like, things mysteriously vanished in the last couple of days and it was having some errors. So we don't know what exactly caused that. But
And you can I think you already posted the link, but just kind of regurgitate it one more time as we close out. You want to do one more plug for the was it Final Gamble and From the Static?
yeah.
I think
So,
it's like I think there's Final there was a Kickstarter exclusive cover, but Final Gamble, which I had the pleasure of doing the voiceover for the Kickstarter video for.
yes.
I believe it's SCP for September 221420, and the Liana Kangas
There it is.
exclusive. No, it's a 20. It's a 1 in 20. I am
Yeah.
no, the foil's 1 in 20. You have a foil cover
Yeah.
of the Kangas cover. Oh my god.
Yep.
There is
So,
no way. There's no way my LCS is going to have a 20 issue order on that. I'll have to like bad. I'll threaten to beat him up. That's what I'll do.
yeah. Yeah. Again, first few months with distributing through Diamond, we're trying to get our feet wet and try some things out to figure out
That's hot.
what works really well. Our brand manager did suggest doing an incentive cover, especially with like a number one. And I'm like, yeah,
Hell
that makes
yeah. Hell
like,
yeah.
it's like that makes sense, Doug. Good suggestion.
If you're going to do foil cover and it's the Kangas cover, you're going to that's just mwah.
Yep.
Do you know that the foil cover for the last there's a foil cover for Liana as well for I believe Aza, which
Ooh,
is that, and that's almost unobtainium. I think that was basically a San Diego thing. There's one on sale on eBay for like $100.
really? No, there was one that Charlie did with Galarian that had Liana's work on it.
Oh,
And
I took care of that one.
yeah, one of the options was I think a full foil or metal cover, something like that. I snagged one of those while they were still available. I was like,
Yeah, I have I have a pile. Liana had made the mistake of telling me to wait till I had everything. So I'm going to wait till I have everything, and I'm going to send Liana like a stack of just of books, and then I go, and that one needs a remark, and that one needs a remark, and that one needs a
oh my
remark. So
god,
we'll have to we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, but it's
where
getting
else
close.
is it? I think, yeah, bang. That was Liana's work, wasn't it?
Oh, hold on, let me see really
I
quick here.
think she.
Yeah, that's Liana's cover
That's
for
Liana's.
Friend.
Yeah. Oh, hey, look, right in front of my face, covered by Liana Kangas. If I was literate, I would have known that. Without
No,
this.
I could spot a
But
Kangas a mile away.
yeah,
I'm a Kangas connoisseur.
well, I said, like, I don't want to call it a cover B. I want to call it a cover K because Liana's cover work is very distinct,
Yep.
and like she has a style. You see it, and you just know it immediately. And
Well,
that's
you're in
part.
good company, by the way. You're very contemporaneous in your artist choice.
I try to pay attention what other people are doing well and just copy them because I have no original ideas of my own.
Shut up.
Um,
That's awesome, though.
but she's just I'm a huge fan
Oh yeah.
herself. So like it was a thrill for me to be able to be like, oh my god, we got a Kangas cover. Like Kangas cover K. Oh, is this marketing?
Now I like not to pivot away from that, but talk about hard segues sort of from the static though. That's an honest to goodness, full fledged out anthology, like sized book. I think your retail is going for about what 20 something,
To 24.99,
24
which
99. So like that is an honest price for a big thick boy.
yeah,
It's a thick boy, and I'm
it
looking forward to being part of that.
it'll come in roughly 150 pages. I think we got something like 132 pages worth of stories, and then we'll be throwing in a bunch of back matter. As long as everybody got us their bios and headshots by today.
I feel that pain, by the way. We're doing that right now
Hey, you
for
want
the
to
next.
talk about the pain of putting together anthologies? I'm sure you're very well familiar with it. Like, please, thank you. I
Well,
would like to be able to put a nice little bio in the back of the book
I
for
won't.
everybody involved with it, and plug their socials and their websites, whatever.
We did that. It takes a little bit. Some herding cats, but I won't name names, but I will throw the Color of Always creators. It's about I'd say about half of them under a bus. Their comps were delayed to the end of the fulfillment cycle because when we checked our form for please fill out your stuff,
Mm.
they didn't put their names in them, so we didn't know who we were sending them to. So we had all. I mean, in theory, they would have all gone to the right place, but there's no name, so
Yeah.
like we had to like redo it, and unfortunately, that went back to the we use white squirrels. So it went back to the
Oh
line, and
gosh.
it's yeah. But I think we're good now. I think they're good now. They're all coming in now.
Gosh.
Especially the retail ones, which is important. But that was a funny part of it too. Talk
It's
about herding
funny.
cats.
Yeah. Yeah. I do truly love and appreciate everybody that's involved. But God damn it, it's been trying at times to coordinate some of the stuff. And
You love them. You do though. You love
yes.
every.
Um, and I certainly wouldn't correlate being a publisher to being a parent. I think that infantilizes the creators. But like, there's a little bit of there's a bit of a leadership dynamic in there, and you sometimes end up with a flat spot on your forehead because you just try to ask for the same things so many times. But that's that's part of the gig.
Oh,
Um,
I think I'm being summoned. Or,
yes.
so I mean, I don't have much time left.
No. I think we've talked on that a lot. Rio Burton did the main cover there, which is gorgeous. Terry and JJ Lopez also have variant covers, and that will be
JJ,
available on the eventual Kickstarter for it.
Rio's amazing too.
Yes, one thing we learned from our Diamond Rep is that to not do variant covers on trades and things of that kind of format. So I don't know.
Worth noting.
Yeah, they whatever. I want to make sure we do spend a little bit of time to talk about Extra Pages Press.
Oh, well, we mentioned it briefly, but we should go in
Yeah,
earnest
but-
really quick.
Yeah. Let me snag. Well, I snag the link. So I was really like not shocked. Like, oh my god, Brent's got a publisher now, or like. But it was like, oh wow, they did so well with that anthology that like they just kind of made a natural progression. So, what was that discussion like? Was that like the original idea, or was it kind of like, hey, if we knock this out of the park, do you want to just take it like a next step further?
No, you have it right. I think it's organic in scope, in nature. But my original mandate with color, you can still find it on Kickstarter. It's called The Color of Always. It was our inaugural effort. I had a vision of creating a series of collected works that were based on anecdotal experiences by LGBT creators, things that actually happened to them, or if you were an ally, somebody who was related to you, but they had to be authentic tales.
Mm-hmm.
We had an emphasis on using LGBT creators entirely. The logo designer, the cover artist, all the interior storytelling. We had one or two exceptions for Color of Always, but for the next book we're going to be doing, it's going to be entirely LGBT only, and that'll be our policy going forward. But yeah, we really have an emphasis on elevating LGBTQI plus creators, paying them as much as we physically can for their work, And now that we've created that one anthology that was based around stories of LGBTQIA love and all the permutations of it, we want to start showing that the stories are, it's more than their queerness can be part of your identity, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the emphasis of the narration itself. So our next project is going to be about sword ladies,
Nice.
martial women. It's called Sharp Wit in the Company of Women, and it's phenomenal. I think the art that I've seen so far from the teams that we selected is going to really stand out. We have some surprises we haven't yet revealed. We'll be revealing elements of the thing as we go forward. I think we'll start announcing teams next week as we build up the Kickstarter page. But we'll have some just amazing dynamic creators as part of this process. I will some of the things you might already know. Ringo nominated Fellhound editor and will also be a contributor this time. We have Joe Corallo. She Said Destroy with Liana.
Oh,
We'll be doing a story. Ringo nominated editor Joe Corallo. So we have two Ringo nominated creators in this. We have, as of yet, unrevealed contributors for one or two different elements of the thing. I think we just everyone's just so immensely talented. I think Danny and Sky will have a story,
hmm.
and so Sky Patridge, and so it'll be a lot of fun.
Very cool. Sky does amazing work too.
Yeah, well, I mean, Danny Lure is a phenomenal writer. Skylar Patridge is a phenomenal artist. They've always enjoyed working together or expressed a desire to. So I'm like, hey, want to be a team? So
Yeah.
they're one of our invites for the
Nice.
project.
Very cool. I'm excited for this. Um, do you have a expected window for the Kickstarter?
September 25th, give or take a day. But
Cool.
I think our goal is to hit that mark.
Nice. So, you and I are in the thick of Kickstarter production.
Yes, yes, yeah. There's a lot of eyeballs on this. We want to make sure we do it right. It'll be a much tighter project run
Mm.
than Color of Always. The won't have as many tchotchkes, but there will be prints. There will be stickers. But we're just going to be a bit more cognizant of production timelines and cost.
Yeah.
Ambitious goal, but again, we want to pay our creators. So I mean, above what it could constitute to be what we used to. So, see, we're doing our best. There'll be a stretch goal, hopefully, where we can pay people a little bit more, but we're still playing around with our tiers right now.
Mm.
But yeah, Extra Pages Press is here to stay. We want to keep creating independent works and anthologies that have LGBTQIA creator focus. And that's our next project. I think Color of Always is still hitting comic shops right now. For anybody who supported our retail tier, we're going to be in Victory Comics on on the East Coast. There's a bookstore called The Ripped Bodice out in Santa Clara,
Mm.
I believe in California. Tacoma, Washington, Destiny City Comics just posted that their collection came in. Twin Infinity in Nashville, Tennessee. Crazy Comics in Columbus, Ohio. I think we even have some. We even got a retail tier solicit from Blue Stockings
Cool.
in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. So that's a cooperative owned by sex workers and
Oh,
other individuals. The workers themselves own it. It's a very cool shop. I think that it runs the gambit in terms of who's doing it. I think there's a place up in Minneapolis too. The name
very
escapes
cool.
me right now, but yeah. So it's gonna be really awesome.
Nice. Yeah, I think I got the shipping notification yesterday. I know my copy's on the way, and I'm like very excited. Oh, nice. It's really thrilling to see, what you and Michelle are putting together. Um, I'm happy to be here and do whatever we can to help y'all out
Oh,
and
we'll
make
be
sure.
in touch.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll pick your brain, and
I,
vice versa. By the way,
my brain is an open book. Shorts and pictures, but but,
no,
uh,
you don't sell yourself short.
uh,
You guys are doing amazing things.
thanks. I hope so. I will always say I just want. Obviously, I want this to just be able to become like a full time job for me too, right? like everybody else that's making comics. But
Our goal right now is to break even for the
yeah,
tax man.
that's
But maybe one day we'll do something ambitious like make money.
yeah, that's I think my target right now is I want our titles to be profitable enough that the creators we're working with feel that it was worth their time to publish with us, and that they had a good experience with us, so that they keep coming back and want to make more stories with us, and it encourages others to come and publish their comics with us. So that's to me the next step over this next 1 or 2 years is if we can hit that as a goal as a company, we're on the right track, and that will just continue along in the growth progression there to the point that it's something where Chris and I can say goodbye to the day jobs and make comics full time.
My goal, baby steps, is to eventually find a way of being able to go to a con and have a table and not like mortgage my house to do it if I can never pull it off.
Uh, I have a way.
Hey, let me know.
Yeah.
You need a visiting artist, I'll tag along.
Um, and we'll talk when we are no longer when I end the broadcast. We'll chat a little bit.
Cool beans.
If you got 2 extra minutes, I know how. I don't want. I appreciate every moment that someone wants to spend their Friday evenings talking with me on this stupid thing. I want to be.
You.
I want to be respectful of everybody else's time and understand that, like, I'm also taking you away from your family.
Hey, all good. And to the chat, or anyone who's out there who's stuck around, thanks for chilling with us.
Big time. I don't know if anybody has any questions that they want to get in. Please do ask them. Otherwise, I think we might call this a good, successful broadcast. This is fun. I could sit here and talk with you for hours and hours, Brent.
Hey, invite me back. Happy to do it.
With that smooth voice, we'd be fortunate to have you as much as possible.
FM 104 WIOT, Toledo's rock station.
Best voiceover in the business. All right. I will just say thank you for joining me tonight. Thank you for everybody who tuned in, who joined in the chat, and who will watch later recorded. Go follow Extra Pages Press. Follow Brent. Check out the Kickstarter for, oh my god, I'm going to completely screw myself. Sword Ladies, Sharp Wit, and the Company of Women. All right.
Yeah. It's a tongue twister. It's good.
It is, so I won't beat myself up too much. But Kickstarter coming here in the next couple of weeks. If I was a smart person, I would also remember to say, God damn it, where's the link? No, not that. Oh yeah, I cannot function.
What you're looking for?
Anymore. There we go. That was the right button to hit. Magni the Mighty comes back to Kickstarter.
Yes.
Yes.
By the way, Ben and I might be working on something at some point. So
Cool.
I
Yeah.
could be a good publisher for it too.
All right. Yeah. September 19th, we go live with Magni the Mighty. So I need to actually get that Kickstarter page up to snuff sometime between now and then. But do please click that link and give a little pre-launch follow. Brent, if you have, do you have a Kickstarter link?
Oh, for mine? No, not yet. We're not
Okay,
launched yet. We'll keep an eye out though. We'll let you know. We'll make a big wind about
definitely
it.
let me know, and we will certainly push it as much as we can.
The reveals are going to kind of blow your socks off. Let's put it that way.
Nice. I wish I had the brain power to have that forethought. So, all praise be to editor Michelle.
Oh, praise be Michelle.
Yes, Michelle from editing. All right. We'll wrap
Thank
that.
you for visiting Band of Bards live.
See, I need to pay you to do an intro and outro for this. All right. Uh, have a good weekend, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.